and welcome to Crafts and Crime. I'm Amy.
I'm Lane.
And as always, we have a craft and a crime.
We almost didn't.
I know. We are a little, it's
like if it was Monday again.
Yeah, but it's Tuesday that we're recording. Tuesday seems to be a good day because Mondays are kind of hard.
It's usually a catching up day because I didn't finish over the weekend. Because it's hard to do homework on the weekend.
Yeah, it is. Because most of the time I'm like hogging up the TV when I do my research. And so I'm like, I need to watch another video. So like, yeah, when I was finishing up my research last night, the kids were like, is this scary? I'm like, just get out of here.
Just be quiet.
Just don't look at it.
But, don't look at it.
Yeah. But, you know, Lily, she likes the blood on her neck. So, yeah, it's been a day for me. I probably got, what did I say, like 5 hours of sleep?
Probably not even. You said you woke up a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't fall asleep. And then Jack is sick, and so he woke me up coughing when his alarm went off at 3, and I got broken sleep. So I probably slept like 3 or 4 hours, and then another hour, and I am like dying. So I am riding struggle bus. And then I woke up to the kids, the little ones, had gotten into the breakfast shake mix, the chocolate breakfast shake mix. They had a bunch of cups of water. They somehow, Lincoln opened up the Dayquil, but they didn't drink any of it. This was like minutes after I woke up, and he had poured it in a water bottle and then like shook it up with some of the chocolate mix and stuff. And so he was just messing around with stuff. And I'm like, how? And even Jack was like, how do you get the Dayquil thing open? He literally used his teeth and like pried it open. Oh my God. So thankfully he didn't like get any. But
was that in the locked up medicine box?
No, it was sitting out on the counter.
It's gonna have to be now.
I know,
because Jack
took it before work. Yeah, and so left it out. But it's like child-proof, but not Lincoln-proof.
It was Lenore.
Nothing
it wasn't
is Lincoln-proof.
Child-proof for Lenore either because she's strong little baby hands. Well, she's not baby now, but
yeah. So we have a medicine safe. We literally can't have just a lock on anything. It has to be like a combination safe. And because he was the kid that at like 3 years old learned how to open the baby gates for Lily, like him and Lily they're just two peas in a pod. But yeah, they got into a bunch of stuff and poured milk in the dog water. I can't even keep it all. Well, I can't even remember now. It was just one thing after another. And so
what time was this at?
This was at 9 a.m. And because I had fallen back asleep for like an hour. I fell back asleep at like 7. So from like 4 to 7, I didn't sleep. And then I heard them and I was like, oh, they're in the kitchen. So I was like,
that's right. Because I was texting you at 6 because I had been awake for a while. And I was like, why is she texting me back? I saw it like, the little the typing. Yep. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
and then, then I was like, just try to go back to sleep. But then you have that groggy, like that nap feeling because you'd been awake for so long.
Yeah.
I had the opposite problem. I lay down with Kurt. He didn't have to go to work today for an appointment, and so we got to stay up like a whole hour extra. So we laid down at 8, and I was so tired, and I figured, oh, I'll just lay down, and then when I'll wake up, like I had notes to finish wrapping up and stuff for today. And then all of a sudden I woke up and he wasn't in bed, and my brain went, oh well, he's either in the bathroom getting ready or he already went to work. I sit up, I look at the clock, and I'm like, holy shit, it's 4. What is happening? And then I remembered, oh, he doesn't have work today. Oh my God, I slept the entire night. And like I had stuff I had to do. So I ended up redoing my notes this morning. So I woke up at like 4, but I'd gone to bed at 8. I got like just 8.5, 9 hours of sleep. But then what happened is my body did not want to do that anymore. So by 7:30, I fell asleep again.
Yeah, I figured. That was me. I fell back asleep at 7 after it was after 7 because me and you were like texting, and then I was like tossing and turning, I know, for a good hour. And so yeah, I'm not a person who naps. I never nap. So I've got that groggy feeling. And then, with the kids and their room, they got into oatmeal, so that's all over the room.
Never ending. The radishes.
The radishes, yeah. And that's the thing, is like anybody that has toddlers knows they are stealthy. They can be so quiet when they want to, and they're just evil geniuses.
Yeah, they know.
That is why. And I was even telling Avery this morning because she was helping me try to find that water bottle that had the NyQuil or the Dayquil and the chocolate powder and stuff in it. And oh my gosh, that scared me.
little cat hair
cat
fluffy.
hair fluff in my face. So I was like, man, I'm so glad we have cameras because I could see they didn't drink any. They just played with it, you know, and so that's why, you know, safety is a concern, and that's why we have cameras. And but man, they are so quiet, and sometimes like I'll think I hear them, and so then I'll like look at the reflection in that china cabinet, and I can see Lincoln like up in the cabinets, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, basically, if they're being quiet, they're doing something they shouldn't be.
Exactly. And they had the whole giant brand new container of salt, like right before you came over, with like bite marks in the side of it, like they were trying to get into the salt container. And I'm like, you do realize what this is? It's not like a big thing of candy. It's salt. I'm like, I kind of wish they got to it, and
they probably would have poured it in the turtle tank or something.
I know. Poor Phyllis. No, I think they kind of are scared of Phyllis. We have a red-eared slider, and her name is Phyllis, and she has a big tank in our living room. And yeah, I think they're scared of her because they watch her like eat the lettuce and the broccoli and stuff, and she can chomp. She's big. She's not a little one. She's like mid-sized.
Yeah, I mean, they're strong enough. They could take off one of their fingers. Not ours, probably, but one of the kids, if they put their finger in.
Yeah, so I think they're scared enough of her that they don't. Like, even when they feed her, they, like, keep their hands above the thing. But, yeah, so it's been a struggle with my kids, but, you know, that's having children. So I'm just, riding the struggle bus today. So sorry to vent about my kids.
It wasn't chickens this time.
I know. But yeah, I have. Well, you just moved your chickens. And
yep, here we go. I just moved my 6 baby I am Samanis. I have 2 roosters for sure, and the other 4 I'm pretty positive are girls. And so I moved them in with my 2 hens, Artemis and Honeydew. Honeydew is a bigger, like us, sapphire gem chicken, and then Artemis is like we were just talking about how runty she is. She's so small.
She's little.
And these babies are only like not even 3 months old yet, and they're as tall as her. Not obviously as filled out and fluffy, but I think that's why she perceives them as a threat, and Honeydew is like, pfft.
Yeah.
But I actually thought Honeydew was going to be the one, and it's not. Yep, it's Artemis, and she's pecking them.
She's probably like, hey, now I'm the boss.
Exactly, yeah. And so she's like, but I sat there for like an hour, and I watched them, and she's not trying to be vicious, but she's literally like, get away from me. So what I was before we had started, I was telling you, like, I'm gonna put the baby's food and water on one side, and then keep Artemis, even though they all flock together, but there's a better chance that they'll go to their food on that side, and then they'll go separate. But it just seems like the babies are cornering up in one side, and when Artemis wanted to go over there, she like clucked her way over, and then was like to get them out of her way. They weren't even bothering her, but then she stops. As long as they move out of her way and they leave her, like, just get away. They're not even bothering her. But I'm just like, my baby, I can't believe you're the one doing it. But I guess it's better because she's smaller.
Yeah. Well, remember when, like, when we had all the chicks and we put them in with my 3 hens, and now that group had, when we had those chicks, they were 2 roosters and 4 hens, right? My 2, your 2? Yeah. And so remember how they were getting all picked on, and Miss Frizzle is the one that gets all picked on the most. She's got like no feathers. Oh, they're coming back. But remember how she was kind of like bullying too? So it's like, it's just literal pecking order.
Yeah, they're going to figure it out. And like, I don't hear anybody screaming, so they seem fine. But the funny part though is Honeydew is like, I want out. Why'd you put him in there? Why'd you put him in here? Yeah. But they've started running to her. She doesn't like coddle them or anything,
but she's just like, okay, I'll tolerate you.
She at least like lets them come near her enough that it seems to be enough. But it's nerve-wracking. It really is. Like, that's the thing on the farm, is that it's not all fluffy and beautiful. No, and I have seen so many chickens in our chicken groups literally get scalped to the skull bone.
I've had chickens get
I'm
killed.
So afraid of that, and that for sure happens killed. And I'm so nervous, but it looks like it's fine already. I'm thinking if it's going to be really bad, it would be immediately.
You would know right away, because we've had to slowly integrate, because we'll put some in and then they'll get bullied and we have to take them back out. And so that's what I'm a little worried about with the chicks that I have that are in the transition, you know, because I have three different areas. I have my chickens and I have my teenagers and then I have my babies.
Yeah.
And so the babies are almost ready to go in where the teenagers are, but the teenagers, there's some roosters in there. So I'm a little worried about how it's going to be with my rooster, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just
that was absolutely an issue we had though, because the little Roo, he immediately, like what we call it down here, when you loke up is when you're gonna like, you know, start fighting and you're gonna punk him, and he totally like he loped up right to Artemis, and she was like, "Bitch, you better get out of my face!" And she picked the hell out of him, and she jumped up and leg kicked him like a rooster would do. So the little, that was initially I think what started it. It was the boys of the babies.
Yeah,
if they had left her alone, I think it would have been fine.
I'll never forget when freaking. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think now.
Which one
was your rooster?
Feline.
Feline, yes, when he attacked me and Miss Frizzle was like, oh my god, all up in the business, like, come on, like with their little crackhead looking.
She's like, get away from my man.
Yeah. But anyways, enough talk about chickens. We've
kids
but it wasn't
and
that long. I know, kids and chickens. It's our life. Not always.
Yeah, hey, we were under like 15 minutes last time we went over.
We went a lot, but yeah. So. Yeah, chickens, crafts, and crime.
Whoop whoop.
Children, chickens, crafts, and crime.
Boy, we really love the seas.
I know. Seriously.
Cook, cook, cook.
Okay, so you got a craft?
I do.
Okay, let me hear it.
Okay, I decided that I was going to talk about stained glass.
Oh.
If I want to do all of them. There's like no limit to my ADHD brain of crafts. I'm like, I will do it.
I know I have like a line of
and it sucks stuff. Because I'm like, technically it's not that I couldn't. It's not an expensive craft to do. It's just tedious, super tedious. So I kind of have a few parts here. Like I have history. There is so much. Like as always, I understand that not everybody wants to hear like 9 million dates and these little things. So I really did kind of pick and choose. I tried to do the same thing like I did with my shadow puppets, my puppets in general. I kind of tried to go regionally to be fair, but again, stained glass is stained glass.
Yeah.
And it's been the same for the history. Yeah. So there's very few little changes. And actually a lot of this is going to be just on kind of just the history of glass in itself. And then
funny because Lincoln was literally just asking me yesterday, how is glass made? And I'm like, I'll do a craft on that. I
could tell him. Yeah. Surprisingly, it's actually very easy.
That's what I figured.
So, you know, so kind of what I'm going back and forth here is going to be like the history, a little bit of things about it, and then the way it's done. Because it's actually not an expensive craft to do, as long as you don't mess up bits. When you mess it up, you can't redo the same piece of glass. So. Yeah. Okay, so there are 3 of the simplest forms today. There's leaded glass, which is what most of us know.
I know that. Yeah.
There is just art stained glass, which is done with paintings, and there is faceted stained glass. So the faceted glass, it is exactly like it says. It's like bevels and different changes in the glass structure. I think
that's what we had growing up. That kind of glass, like we had a big like a dove bird thing, and it had beveled, like the glass wasn't flat.
You know, the little peekaboo window in my front door, that's a faceted.
Okay, so that's what we had hanging. We had this weird like cutout in our wall, and so my mom hung it from the ceiling in that little cubby.
That's
and
cool.
It fit there perfectly. Yeah, so I'm like, I know, because I stared at that my whole childhood.
So it's very interesting because what we think of is our leaded glass, but stained glass is actually just a catch-all term for glass that has color.
Yeah,
because it's stained. So
okay.
So as always, our good pal Pliny the Elder, he did speak about it, and what he said is that it was an ancient accident when the Phoenician sailors were shipwrecked on an island. They built fires to cook their food, and they would take a block of natron, which natron is actually a soda salt that is part of the mummification process in Egypt.
Okay.
And so they would have, basically, just imagine a big block of baking soda, and they set that on top of the fire, and then they were cooking their food. And so the very next day, as the fire had smoldered all night long, the sand underneath had turned into a solid chunk of glass. Well, the thing is that that's probably not true. It kind of goes along the same line that science sort of doesn't work like that, because it would have gotten hot enough, but it had no control. And so they aren't really sure. But what they think is that likely it was in Egypt. Glass was found when they were firing pottery. And so what would happen is that the pottery, with the bottom of the sand in the dome, like a huge kiln, like ended up getting hot enough for such an extended period of insulated heat. And so they think they found chunks of glass that way. The earliest man-made glass that is still in existence, that is in museums, is from around 2750 to 2625 BC, and it was made, funnily enough, the same way that fancy beads are made now, by winding thin strands of this melted glass around a clay core. And these beads were actually really beautiful, and they were opaque in nature just on their own. And they tended to use it was the minerals that were found in different parts of the sand is what added anything, because glass itself is actually more of a bluish green tint just naturally on its own. So in the 1st century AD, Romans were the first ones that started to cast large glass slabs to be put into windows. So it was nothing fancy. It was literally just like a hunk of crazy that was just as best as the shape as they could get. And they would just set it up and lodge it in with their structure, building structure. They would just masonry around it. And the oldest examples of multiple colors of glass for a window was unearthed at St. Paul's Monastery in Jarrow, England. And that monastery was found in 686 AD. And so these are the first examples of something that was intentionally made colorful. And the oldest complete European windows of stained glass, there are 5, and they're extremely well done, and it is at the St. Augsburg Cathedral, and it's in Europe, and I'm thinking it's in Germany. And they were panels, and they removed them, and they are put in, they're in a museum right now, and they put copies, and it literally is just that. There's nothing fancy. It's just these beautiful panels of glass. And so those are put away in museums, and they made exact replicas, and they put them back inside. So it's something people can still visit, but it's not the original. So that's the St. Augsburg Cathedral. Arabian glass windows came in the second half of the 13th century, and glass, I love this so much, glass was heated and inserted into pierced marble. So have you ever seen like those pins where it's pins, we talk like everybody uses Pinterest, pins of like they drill holes in the fences and pop marbles in? Like that. So they would like pierce holes through marble, and they would put the colored glass, so it would like, I got goosebumps. It's so silly because I was like, oh my God, it's so pretty.
That's so cool.
And so they did that, and then they also, as they glaze it into plaster. So a plastic frame, and pour it in, and so that's how they would get that. It's like a lot of us know like those Moroccan lanterns. Where it's the same exact process in the marbling. So they would drill it and they put it in, and it's just so pretty. So and it's exactly the same in Southeast Asia. These panels of glass were put in the same exact way in temples. It was all just different forms of casting their own windows and crushing up pigments and adding pigments, the same exact ones I've talked about. Yes, the same exact. Seriously, it is. It really is. All that color is connected, and it's a mineral. But the interesting part is that just like in pottery, if one of us get to that one day, it is that the glaze colors change depending on being mixed with other minerals. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you add a carnelian or an ultramarine, it may not turn that blue, or because it all depends on the chemical structure of the silicas in sand, which is where the glass comes from. It's silica. those little packets of do not eat
I know.
non-toxic.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
So from medieval times to the Renaissance, it stayed all mostly biblical.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I was raised Catholic, and I never visited. I think in my life I visited like 2 other churches. It was just something I didn't do except for Catholic churches. And so, but I do know that, stained glass is, everybody has it, but I haven't seen one inside of a Christian church before, and I thought that would be pretty interesting. We should go find one. I love stained glass. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, there's the wasn't the church where the for your grandpa's funeral, wasn't that? Didn't they have stained glass? Yeah, and then
but it's one of the kinds that's painted.
Oh,
and so
okay.
it's interesting because I didn't know this. Every time I would sit there, I was looking like, how did they cut out those panels?
Yeah.
It's
now I'm wondering if
it's
the same as, honestly, it could be the same church. I have no idea. Probably not. But as my landlord's church, he'll post
pictures of the glass,
pictures of the stained glass, and like something going along with it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I wonder what kind that is.
I know. Well, if I see it, I could tell you.
Yeah, I'll look it up and you could tell me.
So, most of this biblical theme kept, but what ended up happening was now it was changing to become what they consider as more secular, just in general, not specifically a religion, because what's coming up is like the Inquisition and crap. So church, and they're going to separate from the Christian, Protestant, and Catholic, and that really heavily affects what kind of glass windows were put in to buildings.
Okay.
And so that would really change. So at this point, the secular windows was changing, and it would depict like history throughout, important parts of history, or like a coat of arms. And so what this was just a silver stain that had started to be, or white, that was just painted onto glass panels, because this is what they were doing. They were moving on from the minerals to enamels, for really the ease and cheapness of how fast they could put it through.
Yeah. Is that painted? Sorry, I'm not
no,
trying to interrupt.
It's totally
I'm like,
fine.
I just found one.
Okay, so the edges, it is leaded and painted.
Oh, okay.
So each panel that you see in between, we should post a picture so everyone will know. Each panel that you see, the little squares, those are the leaded pieces, and the glass in between has been set and then painted. Yes.
Okay.
So it's both. It's very common that it's both.
Okay. Yeah, I had to find a picture real quick, so I was like, now it's bothering me.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. So because of, they had started to realize of diamond cutters. They had made diamond cutting, and so this was an ease of making these designs more beautiful. They could make the leading thinner because they could make sharper, perfect edges, so they didn't have to. The lead is literally a melted lead. It's very pliable when it's melted, and so they would pour it, but they'd have to pour it thick because this is what would hold the pieces together.
Okay.
I am going to get to that, but like here's just the history bit. So because of diamond cutters making quick and easy work of these right angles and stuff, it really made a difference. And so unfortunately what ended up happening is that it just ended up changing to where the leading wasn't an intricate part of the design. It was just to hold the pieces together. And so it was better because actually not handling and breathing in the vapors of the lead was less toxic, but it made the jobs go faster. But here's what came about. During the 15th century, what ended up happening was the glass really took off in Belgium and in Bruges, Belgium, Bruges. They had 80 stained glass companies.
Wow.
So now it's almost like a saturated market. So as we move on, it's rapidly staying the same, but it's also quickly changing. Every 100 years it has this leap. So by the 1640s, colored glass was not actually available. You have to think about like what we think of the New World. Think of the the structure of the mountains of Britain, like what they have available, like mining out these things. So what happened was they just ended up going backwards to cheaper colored enamel paints on these white glass just pieces for homes, so that it was like a readily available thing. But the colored glass that made it expensive and fancy was going by the wayside. Also, at this time, what was happening was the Protestant church was they don't like the pretty. Everything should be calm and not colorful and, gaudy. And so they were not happy with the way that it looked. So English Parliament ordered all of these amazing, colorful, beautiful religious iconography on these windows to be completely destroyed.
What?
So
I didn't know this.
Yes, I know. So because that iconography was removed because of their Puritan principles, and so stop talking about Adam and Eve and virgin sex, and so they were like horrified, and so they wanted everything removed. So after destroying like something like 70% of them, they realized having to replace each of these panels with glass was costing them too much money. So that's the only reason they stopped. So like what survived that was exactly, it was so sad. Unfortunately, it continued, but as we move over to the United States now, for glass in America, it started, as most of us know, we've watched Pocahontas. It started as the very first industry when Jamestown was settled in 1607. England was actually literally running out of wood, out of trees, out of forest. And so that was why they came over here, which is kind of interesting. A lot of people think it was for a lot of different reasons, but it was the lack of wood that they needed. And so they realized between all the forests that the New World had and all the sandy beaches, glass for the fire resource. So that's why they came over here. So they landed on the east coast of the United States, New America, the New World. And Captain John Smith was the one that was in control of this industry. He's the one that started it. And he basically had to tell investors back home that everything was going just fine, and it wasn't.
It never is.
No, it never did. But on top of that, though, the glass industry wasn't working out the way that they thought it was going to, and they ended up not really making what they thought they would, like windows. They ended up just making like jars and bottles, and then other things took off for them, and they started expanding and finding gold and other resources. And so that was actually a really short-lived thing, and it just, obviously it was still needed, but it wasn't the booming industry they thought it was going to be, where they thought they were going to strike gold was from this. Stained glass in the 17 and 1800s. I'm so sorry. Yes, stained glass in the 17 and 1800s started the decline of stained glass because the liquid enamels that were being painted on, there was no need for all these lead lines anymore. So it wasn't what it was originally. So there was no more. They didn't need to cut it. They didn't need to replace it. They could just, they had enough resources to just paint it on as one solid piece. Because when you're thinking of multiple pieces, even with lead being a metal, if anybody was a fisherman as a little kid, you get those lead weights. You're like, I can bite it. It's soft. Like poison. But it's very soft. So there was no need for that. And so traditional art turned into just art. They were just painting. So it just continued. Not that it was not as beautiful or special.
It just changed.
It changed exactly like everything did.
Into something new and
it
different.
All does.
Yeah.
In the late 18th and 19th century, the royal Britain and Europe experienced a Gothic revival. So luckily for them, that brought back a lot of fun, the grandeur of back in the day. And so a lot of these old techniques came back, and really they took off in England by a man named Edward Burne-Jones and William Morris, which is interesting. It's not that William Morris of like the cigarette and alcohol, whoever, not that guy, just a name. So Edward, they were both artists, and Edward, he drew the designs,
Mm-hmm.
and William was the one who actually would make it into the stained glass the old school
Oh,
way.
okay.
So it was a diamond cut. This is literally like the super simplest form. You have a diamond cutter, which just is a handle with a pointy little tip on the end. It looks really sharp, and it's
Mhm.
metal that is full of diamond shavings.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to score out the design. Then you take a pair of nippers. Now
Mhm.
it's like a flat, I'm showing you like everyone can see. So think of huge plier handles with a flat base
okay.
as the buffer bottom to hold it
to
in
hold it.
place. And on top is like a little V.
Oh,
And
okay.
it pushes
I
it
think
down.
I've
It's
seen
just
this
like a
tool.
ceramic tile cutter. And
Yeah.
so it puts pressure pushed against a flat surface to pop it. And it's like
Mhm.
such a satisfying.
I know. I've seen videos. I know exactly what
Sorry, I
you're
just
talking
blew out
about.
everyone's eardrums.
I know
but-
exactly what you're talking about because
Mhm.
there's some people that still do that technique on
Yeah,
TikTok.
yeah,
and stuff
and
all.
it's something literally. It's not hard, but
Mhm.
it is tedious. And if you're not careful, you'll break it. And like I said, you can't undo it.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do except do something else. And
Yeah.
for like a square, because I've looked into it before, by say like a square foot.
Mhm.
Sorry, I can't pull centimeters out of my ass that fast. A square foot of glass is like $8.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could cut several decent shapes out of that as long as you don't fudge it up.
Yeah.
So it is a real, you can always use that glass again.
Mhm.
So, anyway, kind of went off base, but yeah, so that's how stained glass is done. And then you heated up the lead like with soldering and you, bloop, 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 bloop. That's
Yeah,
literally
so
it.
cool.
Mhm. So they went back old school and they really brought it back.
Mhm.
And they brought it back into fashion and back into churches were starting to redo themselves, and it wasn't affordable for the average home, but it was things that could be placed inside. So
Mhm.
in the 1800s, a lot of old Victorian houses have these gorgeous like full windows, full panels, doors of stained glass, and I want that so bad. In the mid 1800s, a New Yorker named John LaForge, who was a famous painter and a muralist at the time, he started to get really interested in stained glass. And I'm really sorry I missed this part, but I actually think he worked with Edward.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
pretty sure he worked with Edward.
Okay, because it's all the same time.
Yeah, he worked with somebody. So I'm like, dang it, I forgot that part. It was really late.
Yeah.
We're always doing. I sent you the meme where it's like I don't procrastinate. I just like to do things later.
Hey, that's
We're
how I
best
got
under
my
pressure.
master's degree
I'm
done.
telling you,
I
when
did
you
it.
know you have to do it, you're like, oh fudge,
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's the only way I was able to do my master's degree is like just do it at the last minute.
just
and
do it.
do it under pressure.
Yep, exactly. So John LaForge, he got really interested in stained glass, and he started working with it, started painting. He tried out all the old techniques, and he ended up inventing opalescent glass, which, of course, you can't get an exact, like, how did it do it? But basically, from what I found out, the opalescent glass was made, obviously people know how to do it, but I didn't see it in the article. But if anybody knows how candy is made, you melt the crystals down and you pull it and you pull it and you pull it, and it makes it opalescent and shiny and looks really beautiful.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same concept. They added, so say if you had a clear glass and you had color in it that made it tinted pink, and then they added, say, blue. As they mixed it in and it was cooling, say the blue's kind of up here and the pink is sort of settled, and so it's a sheen, but it's incorporated. It's crazy. It's magical. I never understand, like, how did you do that? How did you just
figure that
invent
out?
it? Yeah. How many mistakes did you have to make? So he invented opalescent glass. Now this name coming up is pretty worldwide. So Louis Comfort Tiffany, who was also a New Yorker and the son of the jeweler Charles Louis Tiffany, was a very successful trained painter. And his parents were both super famous already, so he had a very privileged life that ordered him a lot of resources. And so he was amazingly trained as a painter, and he realized that he wanted to try something different. He started experimenting with glass because, again, it was kind of coming up in fashion, and John had brought it forward and had done some new stuff, and Louis was like, I got to get in on it. He started working, and in his stained glass in 1875 made his own glass-making factory in Queens. And he created a style of glass that he called Favril, which was a spin from the Latin word faber, which now I'm like, Faber-Castell, the art brand. I'm like, what does the other part mean? I've got to look it up. I didn't.
I know. It's all these things that once you say it out loud.
Because I was finishing this morning.
Yeah.
I was like tidying it up, and then I did my fun facts.
Yeah.
So Faber, the for craftsmen, and it was a free-formed colored glass that he mixed with alloys. And it's really interesting because basically, I mean this with zero disrespect, it was pointless glass. It was just, so a lot of us have seen it. So he would make basically think of like a calla lily shape.
Oh, okay.
And then, but he would like smush it and flatten it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it's just a decoration.
Yeah.
And so he started these as like, how can I shape glass? How can I mold glass? What can I add in the pattern? So he would make these and they'd have like peacock eyes in the glass. And it was amazing. So I'm all excited. So that's what he has started doing, which is free-form art sculpture, because he could.
Yeah.
So that's what
he has the resources to do so and mess around.
Yeah. And so that's what he started doing. He acquired the patent for the copper foil technique, which is what we do now. And so I can explain that. And that's basically, this is what it is these days. So you buy a foil tape, and it is really thin. If you want really thick leading, you'll get thick tape, but you do a very thin piece of tape, and this is what makes stained glass fiddly, is after you cut out your shape with your diamond cutter and you've snapped it apart, you take this tiny, usually it's like, I think a ½ inch, depends on how thick your glass is, that matters too, and you line up the edge of the entire little chunk. So every single chunk has to be foil lined.
Oh, that's so
then
tedious.
you puzzle them together, and then that's when you do your lead soldering over the top, and it bonds.
That's what I've seen is where they do the soldering.
And the tape is what is underneath if they haven't showed that part, and it is what binds it all together. It's like the heat with the copper, and then the leading, it holds it, and it makes a grip for it, because the glass, it won't stick.
Yeah.
So magic. That is
crazy.
it. And so this is exactly what we know today. And it really hasn't it hasn't changed outside of like new glass has been done in the ways of like dang it, I like left up this article so I could keep looking at it. I'm like, did I pull it open in here? Just the different ways that glass is made and colored was pretty much started by Louis Tiffany. And what he did was he really just experimented with like, okay, if I break this glass and put this chunk on top of this and melted it all down and pressed it, and we do that glass too. Still, these like artists do this glass. And yeah, it's really interesting because all it takes is basically temperature.
Yeah.
And you can make the glass wavy or polka dotted.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's carved in a pattern, and it's just the weirdest thing. And it's strange because I don't know if you've seen that movie, Sweet Home Alabama. The partner has like, he does art by putting lightning rods in the sand, and then the lightning hits the lightning rod and it makes glass. It's like, that's why it's superheated fast immediately. And it hasn't changed. That's it.
I know. That's
superheated
crazy.
sand.
Well, yeah. Now I can tell Lincoln.
There you go. Yep. Fun facts. I have a few.
Okay.
So a lot of people know obsidian as being like a black rock that's really beautiful, and it comes from volcanoes, and it is glass.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, and that's why it's so sharp, and that's why it was used for tools and cutting and stuff all the way back to Native Americans, because
it's not a rock. It is
glass.
Yeah.
So they are literally breaking a hunk of glass off, and you got a glass blade. Imagine like a glass arrowhead.
I know.
Slicing you open.
That's like that Expedition Unknown. Josh Gates, he went and talked to that guy that does it, he's done all the arrows and stuff from obsidian. It's so cool.
Do you know he's younger than Jack and Kurt?
What?
Yes.
Sorry.
I know.
I didn't mean to
He's
blur,
like 41.
What?
I know. hilarious.
Crazy.
Yeah. Another fun fact, glass is infinitely recyclable.
Yep.
Forever.
That's cool.
And we throw it away.
Yeah. I know.
So this, I know that you know this one. A lot of crafters know this one, but in case you don't, that's okay. Frosted glass is made by using hydrofluoric acid.
I did not know that.
You did it? It's glass etching.
Oh,
You've
wait.
done-
Yes, I did. I've
so
done
you
that.
just use a hydrofluoric acid cream.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't put it on your skin.
No, I know that.
I wish I had asked Kurt before I did this, and I meant to, and I fudged it up. Oh, well. I'll just tell it later. He talks about that all the time. They use acid at work that only eats up concrete cement
That's
chunks.
just crazy.
Like, he's like, yeah, you could touch it and it's fine. I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah.
But that's why, a lot of us know that's why acid can't be kept in
I know,
glass.
and I'm
it
like,
has
I
to
didn't
be
know
kept
that.
in plastic.
I've literally done glass etching.
But it's okay
don't
though.
think of the
I mean, you
chemical.
don't. It doesn't say hydrofluoric acid.
No,
it says
glass etch.
and they put it in a cream so it doesn't run everywhere.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. And I have one more, and this
Okay.
is the coolest.
Okay.
It is to me. Okay, glass is always moving.
Huh?
So glass is called an amorphous solid. It is a state between solid and liquid. And so under the strongest microscopes on Earth, the molecules that make up glass are still moving.
What?
Yep, they're just going
Like even
so
old ones?
slow. Yep, it's
Even
still
old glass?
moving. Yep, because it is not actually either. It's weird. It's like ice. Ice is still is moving. I know, right? Science. I know. Just
I
say
had
that
no
Bill
idea.
Nye science. I know, it's so weird. I'm like, why?
That is so weird. I
And I
never
just
knew
love the
that.
fact that someone's like, let's look at this under a microscope.
Let's just see if we
I
can
would
see
too.
something.
Yeah.
I know.
Weird.
We have microscopes, but not the
Not
good
that
microscopes.
good.
Not the good microscopes. You got like
They're good enough.
the
They're
kid
backyard
ones.
microscopes. Yeah.
Mhm.
I totally
Wow.
forgot
That's
about that
good.
too.
Yeah.
Yay.
Good job. That was interesting.
Thanks.
I have a feeling that we are getting to a point where we need to sit down and pick and choose a giant list of which crafts we're going to do, because I have a feeling we're going to overlap, because I was looking at that the other day.
Oh no.
I didn't because it was like, I don't know.
Well, the thing is that also what's going to end up happening is we don't work these that far ahead. So it's going to be like
Yeah.
this week you're like farts.
I know, but this week we're working on 2. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I started work on my craft last night.
Oh, well, at least it was the same class.
Yeah.
We could have done them both and seen like, let's talk about it together.
Yeah. And then everyone vote.
Which stays up.
Yeah, which episode do we keep?
I have thought of that
keep it in
before,
my
but for the
closet.
most part, we're not usually that far ahead. So yeah, I think you and I both are
No.
going to have to be like, these are my next 2 or something like that. But
Yeah.
so far, I think we're going to be okay.
No,
or it's going to end up being like a thought in the background. And then,
Yeah. No, the reason why I was thinking that is because last night I literally pulled up a big list and I was like, oh, I want to do this, 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 this. And so I don't know, but I have ideas, but you tend to go in one direction where I'm like kind of going in a different direction as far as like genres of art. Like,
I'm like, thing is off. Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's
I don't
not
know.
really that huge of a, I think.
well, and our interests are very similar, but also
Yeah.
very different. We're like, I was just looking at that as one of many, I was like, I don't know. And then I do that thing where it's like, well, maybe I should start with this, like with the sewing needle. And I'm like, maybe I should start there before I do this. And then, so, or weaving before I do anything else. So I think too much about things, but anyways.
I think I don't think about them until I'm like, fuck, I have to think about it right now. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even tell you right now what my next craft would be. I have no idea.
I have a few, so I'm like, I kind of know which direction I'm going to go in. But anyways, well, we can move on to the crime. Now, I took a little bit of a different direction than what we've normally done.
Cool.
And this actually is somewhat recent.
Oh.
So you'll understand
what you're meaning.
what
and,
I
like,
mean
the
as I
different
go.
direction. Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
Better not be a cliffhanger.
It's not.
Okay. I'm kidding. I think eventually, unfortunately, we'll end up having to do some cold cases.
almost
And
did
it
a cold
sucks.
case, but I hate them so much.
Sucks. It really
I'm
does.
the
I'm
type.
like, I'm gonna think about it forever.
Yes, and so no, it's not a cliffhanger, but
It's okay. Even if it was, it'd be okay.
It is surprising. So
Okay.
okay. So this takes place in 2017. So, like I said, not that long ago. So, on March 9th, 2017, just before 1 a.m. in the morning, in the city of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, a 17-year-old boy was reported missing. So 17, I'm thinking that's only a year older than my son. And so he was reported missing. Now about 20 miles away from Oklahoma City, at a local Super 8 motel in Moore, Oklahoma, someone thinks they spotted the teen going into one of the rooms with a man.
Oh.
And so Lieutenant Michael Leonard responded to the motel where the teenager was seen entering room 120 with the man. And there is body cam footage, and you can see all the police approaching the door. And they, you could see room 120, and they're knocking on the door. They get no response. They announce that they are the Moore Police Department, and they're there to check on his welfare, and they need him to open the door. And they're like, we're not going anywhere. We're not leaving. Like, you need to open the door.
Right, because he's a minor. We need to.
And so the man inside says, like, no, I'm good. I'm fine. And the officers demand he open the door.
Yeah, we didn't ask you if you're fine.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to do it ourselves. Now, at this point, they just said, we're checking in on you. You need to open the door. The man then said that he was getting dressed before, opening the door.
Okay.
And he also said something about having weed in the room because, like, they could smell it. And they're like, look, we don't really care about the weed.
Yeah.
It's not our
That's
concern
not the
right
priority.
now. And they told him they're looking for a juvenile. And the officer's pretty confident he's in that room.
Yeah.
And this guy's acting weird, not opening the door.
Ooh.
And they tell him, we know you have a juvenile in the room. And he denied it. And he would not open the door. And
it's not looking good for you, pal.
No. And so they're knocking. They're telling him, you need to, like, we're going to do it if you don't. And so finally, the door opens. And it's the teenager. And they immediately take him and, walk him away. And then they get the guy and they, sit down on the bed. And they ask him his name. They're looking around the room. And it's just him and this teenage boy that they obviously, whisked away. And they ask him his name. And he says his name is Ralph Shortey. And so the officer kind of laughs and he's like, I don't think your last name's Shortey. Do you have an ID? And this is ironic because the guy is 6'4". So the officer was kind of like joking about like, oh, what, you're Shorty? And then, yeah.
Okay.
And so they're talking to him and, Ralph, did I say Rick? It's Ralph Shortey.
No, I think you said Ralph.
Okay, because I'm like, I wrote it so many times, and it's funny because it's my dog's name, so I just kept like thinking of my dog. But so they're talking to him, and he's like just sitting on the bed, and he's like, no, we're just hanging out and talking, and whatever, and they're like, well, how long have you been here? Hanging out, and he's like, oh, just a couple hours, and so they're continuing to talk to him, and they're like, how did you guys meet? Like, how do you know each other? Yeah. And he said that, the guy, the teenager used to come to his coffee shop he owned called Holy Grounds every once in a while. And that's how they met.
That's a funny name.
Yeah. all the officers knew, like, this was strange. This is weird. And, they're talking to him. They're looking around the room. They start really investigating the room. They find lotion, condoms, and the 2 beds that were in the room were unmade. So something was going on. They could obviously smell marijuana. There was marijuana then. There, he claimed he didn't smoke any weed, even though like they said it was like coming out through the door, like you could smell it. It was obvious. So officers see a computer bag and ask him if it's his, and he says like, yeah, and they're like, can we look through it? And he agrees. And they find a laptop in the bag along with some like medication for blood pressure or whatever. And they could tell that with talking to him, and you could see the body cam footage, and you could just tell like the guy's full of shit. Yeah. Like he's lying about everything. And so they, like, okay, well, obviously they talk to the teenager and they're talking to him. So they do their investigation, take their pictures or whatever, document it. And they let him go while they continued this like investigation, because he's claiming, well, I didn't know he was a teenager. He told me he was 20. This was like mutual, and I'm only assuming because I couldn't find information on why would they just let it go if this was a minor kidnapped. I think it was a teenager. Was like, no, it was like I was there on my own will kind of thing. Like I ran away or whatever. It's not his fault. So I don't know for sure. I'm not. I couldn't find anything.
And
on
like
that.
the thing is, they don't have proof that any sexual
Anything
activity happened.
And if the kid's saying like, no, nothing happened, we're just hanging out.
Right. There's
like. Okay, there
they
could
can
have
do
been
yet.
like
There's
condoms
not a
in
lot
his
they can do
bag
yet.
and lotion, but like
Yeah.
they could have just been sitting in the beds talking. You know, who knows?
Exactly.
So
They can't do anything yet, but they could.
Yeah, so that's just weird.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So things get even weirder for
Of course they do.
for officers the next day
Oh.
when they find out exactly who Ralph Shortey is.
Okay. His last name really is Shorty?
That's his real name.
Crazy. Okay. Ooh.
He is
Here it goes. A cop.
the Oklahoma state senator. Yeah.
Ew.
Which kind of surprised me. I'm like, why wouldn't they know who the state senator is?
Girl, I
And-
couldn't tell you
I couldn't
who
tell you
our
either.
senators were by face.
But
I'm like,
an
I think our
officer?
governor's
I
like a
don't know.
lady right now. Yeah. I don't know
So-
either. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So this state senator is a married Christian senator.
Dirty boy.
He campaigned on family values. He was a Republican, tough on crime, conservative, very active in his church.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like, because I'm watching, I'll put it in my in the show notes and the sources, but
Okay.
you know, you could watch it on, you could find it on YouTube too.
Yeah.
But you could see the body cam footage. And so in the body cam footage, when you see he's confronted in that motel room, he is wearing a shirt that has a sandwich on it and a Bible verse.
A sandwich.
And yeah, and the Bible verse is about women being submissive to their husbands. The Bible verse is, I
Like
will
a
say
sandwich? Make me a
Yes.
sandwich, bitch.
pretty much.
Sorry.
So I will say what the Bible verse is. It is Ephesians 5:22, and it says, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord." So then there's Ephesians, 5:22, a sandwich, and then under the sandwich are the words, "Now go make me a sandwich."
That's like some shit you get at Spencer's.
And so I know. And this is a Christian man, apparently,
Obviously.
caught in a room with a teenager, a 17-year-old teenage boy with this shirt on. So it's just like,
not looking
what?
good.
It's,
This is what you wear in
really
your
not.
off time, homie?
I don't know. I'm just like, what? I have never. I
Yeah.
grew up in a Christian home. I don't think that would be
No.
appropriate attire.
No, even if you were like a funny, happy-go-lucky, silly church person, that's really rude and inappropriate.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
disrespectful to women.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
think it's taking the Bible verse out of context. I think So,
Absolutely.
like very much so. So, this is where things get crazy again
oh
because
boy.
I'm watching this and all of a sudden on the screen is Dog the Bounty Hunter. And I'm like, what is happening? And I had to
What is happening?
I had to rewind it because I was like, why is he here?
What
Like,
did I miss?
did he go catch him? No, he was very good friends with him. Yeah. So he's talking about, so this is Dwayne Dog Chapman is his real name. Dwayne
mullet
Chapman.
handbag.
He still looks the same with like a permanent sunburn and his sunglasses right in the middle of his forehead. So, anyways. So
Gotta
we know who
lighten
he
it
is 'cause
up.
it's just like, I know this whole thing was,
Yes,
that's
he's
why I
an
was like,
American
I am
celebrity.
taking this in another turn because
Yeah, it's just cuckoo.
it's crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a
And
crime.
nobody's
I gotta-
dead yet.
No. So,
Wait,
so
is this
anyways.
the first one we did with nobody's dead?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Sorry.
Nobody dies.
It took like 26 episodes for someone to not die.
Yes.
They're
I,
hard to
I
find.
had to turn it,
Okay.
do a little bit of a lighter episode. It's still crime. It's
Yeah, of
still,
course.
it's still
Gross.
It gets, yeah, you'll see.
Ew.
So,
Okay.
so Dog the Bounty Hunter is suddenly on my TV and I'm like, what is happening?
I didn't
And
know
I
this was
had
A&E.
I had to rewind it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he said like, no, he was really close to Ralph. And
Weird.
he was so close that not only did he meet his wife, Ralph's wife, but he was there during the birth of their child.
Okay. What?
That's how close I guess they were. And he met Ralph's mother. And so he's saying that they were like introduced when he had like a shoot out in Oklahoma, and Ralph Shortey and his like introduced himself or whatever, and they just hit it off, and so they became
wanted
friends.
to have a cool famous friend is what they wanted.
Yeah. And so so yeah, I was like, wow, that's a weird connection.
That really is
And
strange.
so yeah, I'll talk more about that later. But so Ralph Shortey and his wife were high school sweethearts. Remember, he's married.
Yeah.
And they have 4 daughters together.
Mm-hmm.
And they all look like a normal family. Ralph is like apparently really a likable guy. And he's a family man. Everyone looked like he could actually become governor. Democrats even liked him so much that like it was a real possibility he could have become governor. He was well liked. So apparently in his like professional life, it's very different than his personal life. So yeah, he was actually liked. It wasn't like a ruse or whatever. He was a good politician or whatever, senator and so he actually did have a small business, the coffee shop, and the one you talked about with the officers, and he did DJ work on the side. So likable guy, I guess. Like, fun guy. Yeah.
Ralph Shortey coming at you.
So March 10th, 2017, just one day after the incident with the teenage boy in the hotel room, Ralph Shortey was on the news. But not for what you're thinking. Nope, he's back at work, and he is being interviewed on the news about drone issues that he's tackling, like safety issues or privacy issues with drones.
Yeah,
keep them out of your backyard, which I don't want nobody flying their drone in my backyard.
I don't want that either.
So apparently he's trying to brush this all under the rug, like nothing happened, just going on with his life. So a week goes by, and more like about 4 days or so, and the public has no idea what happened at this hotel room. It's just nobody's saying anything. And so then a reporter named Nolan Clay gets a tip from a source in law enforcement that Ralph Shortey was, found in a motel room with a teenage boy. So
it's not funny. My brain just thought of a stupid shirt.
It's the whole situation is like, what?
Ridiculous,
you would think that would be like out right away, but thankfully it was within the first week. So Nolan Clay calls up Ralph Shortey, and Ralph's like, hey, hey Nolan, because they're friends or whatever, friendly. And so Nolan asked him about the incident, and Ralph just kind of got quiet and asked him, how long do I have? Like he knew it's over.
He's
and
like,
so,
it's going out in an hour, pal. You better figure it out.
That's literally what he said. He's like, you got an hour to come back with a statement. Otherwise, I'm,
ding.
It's out.
Yeah.
And of course, he never calls back. So Nolan Clay publishes the story. And officers actually told Nolan they could see, like right after he got off the phone with him, Ralph immediately called his wife. So he's like the gig's up. So within
do you think she knew? I'm sorry.
No.
Holy crap.
No. So I think it was like he's probably calling her like, hey, you're going to hear some stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Within 24 hours of the story being published, Senator Ralph Shortey is suspended from the Senate. Obviously.
Good.
Everyone who knew him was shocked and couldn't see how this could be true. But like, obviously, they're not just accusations.
Yeah.
It's on police recorded body cam, and there's a report on it,
Exactly.
So it's not like, just a rumor. So anyway, so then Ralph is brought in for questioning, and what he doesn't know is that they have been investigating him like intensely
this whole time.
Yes.
Computer
like after
Did
that,
they take
yes.
the computer?
No, but they had the teenage boy's tablet or whatever. And so they found more than what they were thinking they were going to find. So when Ralph shows up, he's wearing a nice suit, like nice. They said it looked like he was going to a wedding or something. It was a little strange. So,
because he wants to be photographed being arrested in his nicest clothing,
maybe, or trying to look important and influential and
that's true
and smart and talk his way out of it. So, anyways, he obviously is asked to explain what happened that night. He says they were just in the room talking when suddenly there was banging on the door. He said he didn't know who it was because he couldn't see out of the peephole. Now, remember, officers announce themselves, so it's clear it's law enforcement. He says that the boy he was with claimed he was 20. And so this is why, like, I'm thinking they just let him go because it's like, well, maybe he did get, in a ruse or whatever. And
as gross as it is, it's not illegal to hang out with an underage kid.
yeah. And if
Which
the
is
kid
disgusting.
says nothing happened, then
Yeah.
it's like, So that's why I think that night there was no apparent crime that was committed other than they were hanging out in a hotel room together, and it's just like a presumption of maybe what happened, but they needed
try to figure
then
it out.
continue to investigate. So, they then tell him that they found all the text messages between the two of them.
Like, how can you be so dumb?
Yeah. So, and in these messages, Ralph doesn't go by his real name. He goes by the name Jamie Tilley. So these messages were actually found on the Kik app, which is like a messaging app, kind of like WhatsApp or whatever. And so all of these are on the teenager's tablet, and they have it all documented. They have everything. And so he continues to deny he's ever used Kik to talk to the teenager. He claimed they only communicated through phone calls.
Oh.
Freaking
old people not understanding how technology works.
And so the teenager, though, is the one that told them, that's who I was talking to. It's that man. This is Jamie Tilley. It's whatever he says his name is, that's him. And so they know he can't deny it. The kid's saying that's them, and obviously with the text they could see it's him. So in some of those messages, this is where it gets a little like, if I had to hear it, you have to hear it. So the teenager asks Ralph for some money for spring break, and that is when Ralph asks if he would be interested in sexual stuff. So yeah, and so I'm not going to read those text messages, but they're like super grotesque. But the teenager is basically then trying to be sexual and like calls Ralph, or Jamie in this case, daddy and stuff, and so it's just really gross. Ralph still denies that any of that was him. He says there was nothing.
Someone hacked my phone.
He says, there was nothing sexual that was going to happen that night, that we were together. We were just hanging out. And so detectives continue to read off the text messages, and they let him know that it's clear that he was messaging in a very sexual way back and forth with this teenager, and still continues to deny he was messaging through the app. But detectives told him they knew he was messaging through the app because of the body cam footage. Ralph, in body cam footage, is seen sitting on the bed, and he is saying that his name is Ralph, but he goes by Jamie on the app. So when in his nervous state of being caught by the cops, he is rambling, saying
he ratted himself out immediately. What an idiot.
And he said he goes by the name Jamie on the app, and it's the name of a girl he had a crush on in high school. And so they kind of brought that up, and they're like, it's clear it was you.
Wow.
So also on the device, there were photos of him. So
gross.
He can't. Yeah. So they ask him for his phone, and he claims, I lost it.
You're a senator and you lost your cell phone. Well, you're not a senator anymore, bitch, but like, you don't have your cell phone on you.
Yeah, no, he lost it. Yeah. So
dog can't call you.
As the interview goes on, he becomes more and more distraught. You could just tell his body language changes. He's like hanging his head down, and then he makes a comment that it was the end of the world. But it's like, well, yeah, dude, you're
thought of that before you tried to diddle a kid.
Yeah. So then on March 16th, 2017, Ralph Shortey is officially charged, and he turns himself in. His charges include engaging in child prostitution, transporting a minor for prostitution, and prostitution within 1,000 feet of a church, which I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is.
Wow.
So on March 17th, 2017, just one day after he was officially charged, FBI agents removed contents from Ralph Shortey's house in Oklahoma City. The FBI obviously got involved. They had obtained a search warrant for his residence, searching for the laptop that he had with him at the motel and the cell phone that he was using to communicate with the teenager. They were also looking for anything else that could, answer questions. And when they search the home, they find the laptop that they are looking for, but there's no hard drive in it. All the screws on the bottom of the laptop are missing, so it's clear that the laptop had been opened in order to like take out the hard drive.
Oh my gosh.
So FBI agents then see that Ralph had visited an AT&T store to change the SIM in his phone after the incident occurred. And FBI agents also searched Ralph's office at the Capitol and found the login records from his Kik account. He had it in his office at the Senate.
He was literally committing gross crimes in his work computer.
Yes. And so
I'm sorry, how old is this guy?
Like,
it's okay,
remember.
like over 50?
No, he's younger.
Okay.
He's like in his 30s.
So he should know better.
Yeah, I'm like, I should know the age.
Excuse me, but it's literally like, I'm not trying to rag on the elderly and technology.
No, he's young enough.
But there is a difference of understanding. You're going to commit a crime. You're not going to do that because we know how it's found like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
So they find out like that is Jamie Tilley's Kik account. And so they also see that he was accessing the account from the Capitol building while he was working. The IP address was linked to the Oklahoma State Capitol building.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had used his phone number, and that number was registered to his and his wife's account to then register the emails that he used to send all of the messages and pictures.
What an idiot!
Yes. It was then found out that he and the teenager did not meet through the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
They met through a Craigslist posting. Uh-huh.
My mouth has just been like open this whole time. I'm like, what?
He is still at this point, still trying to spin that, like, no. Ralph had posted a Craigslist ad for casual encounters.
Mm-hmm.
He had actually been posting graphic sexual encounter ads on Craigslist for years. And they were all targeted towards young men.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I said it's going to get a little blah, but just so you kind of have the picture of what these agents are looking at and who this person is, and you form your own judgment on him. Because as soon as I heard this, I was like, nope, I know exactly that he can't talk his way out of like, oh, I was just looking for young men like in their 20s or, younger than me. So listen. Okay. So some of the posts are, the title is Bromance or Daddy Son. M for M, which is male for male. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, I'm interested in finding a friend that we can be guy friends to everyone else, but privately we have fun, maybe even boyfriend type stuff. I've always wanted something like this. This could even be a daddy son type thing between closed doors.
Ew.
So it's like creepy that that's what he wants, but you're thinking, okay. Then it goes on, another post. Daddy type looking for fun visiting DC. M for M again. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, I'm visiting DC and would love to have some fun while here. I can get very dominant if my boy is into that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the word boy,
Yeah, not man.
And then in the last
guy.
Yeah, no. And in the last post I'm gonna read because it just goes on and on. But I was like, these are kind of the important ones that they shared. He says in another post, same type of titles. Hi there, guys. Oh, here's his age. I'm a 34 professional married guy looking to have a boy. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm a daddy type and would love to have a boy to play with and take care of a little on the side. Mm-hmm. This could be a bromance type thing if that's more your flavor. Looking for younger, the better. And in parentheses, legal. I think to cover his ass.
Yeah.
So with all of those, you kind of get the picture of all of, and it just multiplies. It's multiple, all very similar. He's looking for young boys, like not young adults, not and I think the legal is to cover his butt. So FBI agents searched through all of his email accounts and social media accounts, and they had all been wiped. He obviously went in and just deleted everything. They did, however, find an AOL email account.
Who the hell has that?
He did, and it had hundreds of emails that contained pornography, including child pornography.
Gross.
And some of that child pornography was sent out from the email account back in 2012 and 2013. So this had been going on for years.
Yeah, that's like forever.
Yeah.
That's so long.
Yeah.
Like 5 years plus. Is this 2017?
2017, yes. So from 2012 all the way up to 2017 that they can tell just from records.
Right.
So through this search, they were able to find 2 additional juveniles that were victims. He had exchanged emails with them, and in those emails were graphic videos. Agents also discovered that his state-issued laptop was never returned when he was suspended. So they didn't have any of the digital, like as much digital evidence from 2012 to 2017. Most of it was gone, but they did have these emails in his Kik account and stuff. So September 5th, so this is from March until September. September 5th, 2017, Ralph Shortey's state charges that he was charged with and turned himself in, they were dropped. But that is only because with all this new information in the investigation, he has new charges that are federal.
Yeah.
So transportation of child pornography, production of child pornography, and child sex trafficking. All of these charges change from like just a state, a short prison sentence, basically. Now he's looking at life in prison with all of these federal charges. So in November of 2017, about 8 months after the incident at the motel, Ralph Shortey pleaded guilty to 1 count of child sex trafficking. And this was in an agreement with a plea deal so that the child pornography charges would be dropped. So in late 2018, Ralph Shortey was sentenced to 15 years in prison. I know, that 15 years in prison and 10 years of supervised release. And he will be a registered sex offender for life. Such a slap on the wrist. I mean, seriously. Everybody agreed that he should have been, sentenced for much longer. So his wife obviously divorced him, and she and the kids changed their names.
Good. And
it was clear that she had no idea what was going on. The FBI in this, like I said, I'll put it in the show notes. They did allude that there was more on him, but this was just kind of the priority at the time. So you can only imagine what if he's doing this. So then in January 2019, Judge Guisti, I'm probably saying that wrong, ordered Shortey to pay his victim $125,850, the cost of the recommended treatment, and he is scheduled to be released from prison on December 16th, 2030.
Like, are they meaning like the therapy the kid's gonna have to go through?
Yeah, everything. And so that's a lot of money, over $125,000. But I
not that it matters at all, but I just looked up a picture of him and he's fat and gross.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Which is like, of course, it does not matter if he looked like fucking Gollum or he looked like Fabio, even though I think that guy's gross too.
I'm gonna try
to
find a screenshot picture of him with his stupid sandwich shirt on to share, because I was just kind of
humiliate him extra.
Yeah, this guy's gross, and I think I definitely think he got a slap on the wrist with everything going on, and this has been going on for a while.
That happened to.
I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah, it never is the way it should be.
And I do think that the wife probably had absolutely no idea what was going on, because if this was done at work and he's on a work trip or going to DC and
he's probably gone a lot.
She probably has no idea. I guarantee. And they said there was absolutely no evidence. Now, this also goes to show this was a likable guy. Even Dog the Bounty Hunter was friends with him, and we, like we said, we knew someone for decades. And he had similar charges brought against him and basically got a slap on the wrist too.
Yep, and is out.
Yeah, it was like less than a year.
I don't even think it was a year. I think like part of the time between when he got caught and when the trial happened, it like counted as that
time
because
served, but
the
then
amount
he
of
got
time
work
he went
release
in
and
out.
stuff, and yeah.
So basically, he got grounded in prison and still got to go to work, and and it sucks because like he's local too.
Yeah,
like obviously we're not going to say his name or anything like that,
no,
but like he's
but
local.
If you
and
know
people
us
have seen
or
him.
know him, then but it just goes to show that like people could have absolutely no idea, and what people do, behind closed doors, you don't know, and then what people do online, because all of his stuff was online, and this person that we knew, and then same with
of course it's
Ralph.
like obviously those children still got hurt, but he didn't offend on like physically.
Yeah, physically it was
not
more
that it makes it better, but yeah, all it was on the computer.
Distribution. But they were felonies, weren't they? And then I think he took the plea, and so it was reduced. But Yeah, so I kind of covered this because I was like, wow, it kind of not hits close to home, but it's just like, wow, I knew someone for, almost 2 decades, and that happened. So I can't even imagine how his
Yeah, I've known him
wife
since
and
I was
daughters.
little,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just weird. And yeah, you're like, they had different schedules
Mm-hmm.
because I think she worked nights and he worked days.
Yeah. And so it just
and the kids were super little, so
Yeah.
like they getting on the computer while your kids are running around, it's whatever.
Yeah,
And
so I don't think she had any idea, and
No.
yeah, and so that's the
It's
same
like you
thing with
never know. Like I don't even put Kurt and I both, we don't put pictures of the girls online because of that simple reason. Like, oh, all of everybody on my list is family and friends. It doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't. It really
And nobody
doesn't.
wants to think that. Nobody wants to be like, there's a predator amongst grandma. There's like grandma's on your friends list, but you just don't know.
You never know.
And you think this whole time that it's fine. And, I knew someone who ended up having a predator family member, and that family member developed photos at Rite Aid.
Yeah.
So think of how many pictures you take of your little baby's naked biscuits.
I know.
And it's gross. And it sucks because it's like you don't want to think that, but this is the disgusting reality that we live in.
Yeah, and in our area, there's a lot of, sex offenders in our area, and you can look it up online. You could just look up a sex offender registry. I can't remember.
Yeah,
the
you
exact
usually
website.
have to put in your information.
But yeah, you could see the type, and you can categorize it out by like child or minor. And unfortunately, in the area that we live, there's a lot of that, because I was showing Jack, and I was like, oh my gosh, and that's just like
Yeah, and that whole rule that you think of them not being X amount within a school, they literally mean like you can't live across the street, but you can live 5 houses down.
Yeah, and that's why I get so frustrated with all the homeless, like we were talking about, just camped out in front of the high school.
Yeah, and it's like it has nothing to do with the fact that they're homeless. I would be pissed off if some guy in the neighborhood just drove down the street and put their chair up and was watching the kids play football.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I don't want anybody just staring. It's weird because you never freaking know.
No.
And it sucks because you really are just like, you're trying to make it through your life. And in a place that I used to live at, in an apartment complex, like right as we had moved in, there was a predator that lived there because my sister-in-law used to live in the complex. Like there's a playground there. Yeah. There's a pool there. We were 2-3 blocks away from a school. They just can't literally be across the street, but they're right there everywhere you go.
Yeah, and it's scary to think, because in this
took
case,
such a darker turn, but it's our reality.
And that's why I almost did a whole new case. Last night I finished this early, like really early, and so I almost did a whole other one, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what, it's a topic that is a crime. And
absolutely, it doesn't matter that the kid isn't dead. He's going to have weird shit feelings forever.
And obviously the kid reached out to him. He responded to the email, so that kid does need some therapy if he's but he was 17 at the time. He's an adult now. But it's just predators like that reach out for the young and vulnerable, and this was a senator. And that, I think, is what everyone was so shocked. There's no way this likable guy, it could, like we just keep saying, it could be anyone. It could be anyone. So
I was literally just telling you before we started this that I just found out of somebody else. Obviously I'm not going to name names or anything, but the area that I grew up in, there have been I actually forgot somebody else, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4 people that a couple I knew personally, and then another I just knew of that have committed murders. 4.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And I think there's almost another one too. And it's like, you just can't. You cannot think that you truly, Amy, it could be you. No, just kidding. But it's like, you really just don't.
You never know. I know how to keep your cat.
But yeah, it really is just, you think you know people.
Yeah.
And
no,
you don't.
So,
and it's a good thing about making sure you talk to your children.
Yes.
Monitor you don't have to like snoop in their shit, but there's a reality that they need to understand, that like you have to have these real conversations. Yes. You can't just be like, people suck. You got to be like, look, I was a teenager on the birth of the internet, and I had dirty, nasty old men send me pictures of whatever, and it doesn't matter. They could have thought that I was a 20-year-old boy. It doesn't matter. And
people can pretend to be anybody online, and Troy, kind of learned that the hard way with just that one girl that, you know, and
Should have
so
been cuckoo.
yeah, and so it's just, yeah, I've had that conversation with my kids, and it's hard parenting in this, you know, this age, but yeah, definitely talk to your kids about these
Creeps,
predators like Ralph Shortey. So I know he really is gross. You'll see his picture on Instagram, unfortunately.
Yep. Like I said, doesn't matter if they're good looking or not, but like, ew.
I'll try to find the sandwich shirt picture.
I bet you could find the shirt in general online, even if you can't
probably
find him in it. But
no, I want you to see his stupid face, all scared.
Stupid face, all like, oh
Scared,
god,
oh my gosh, with his stupid
sandwich shirt.
So, anyways,
Ridiculous.
Well, with that, stay crafty
And not stupid sandwich shirt crimey. Bye.
Bye.